What's up, y'all? Jason here. Glad you're joining me today. These pretty birds back here, well, they're excess roosters. We don't specifically grow out chickens just for meat, but in the process of hatching chickens and you know, either out of the incubator or the hens hatching out more eggs, we get an excess of roosters. So we've got them down here in this pen. We've had them down here so they can't run off their meat. It's time. I think he heard me. Glad you're hanging out with me today. We're gonna be processing some chickens at home. Gonna get some good organic meat out of it. Stay with me. So when you're doing your own birds and you're just doing, you know, 4, 5, 6 at a time like we do whenever they are grown out and ready, you don't have to have all the, you know, the chicken tumbler and all the fancy everything, kill cones. I still just do it old-fashioned way. Got a tripod with a slip knot. It's going to hold the rooster's feet. And right here got a couple nails driven in, 16s or 20 penny nails. Drive a couple of them in to a sturdy board or stump, whatever you're going to chop the head off with. What happens is the chicken's neck goes in here and it catches on the back side of his jaws, and it allows you to be able to kind of stretch his neck out gently. That way you can get a good clean, you know, off of his head. But yeah, just so I slip this over their feet, cut their heads off. They're able to dangle and then go ahead and bleed out. That way we have no blood in the meat. And then over here we just got our canning pot, which is big enough to dunk these birds in. These are not enormous birds, but you know, they're probably going to dress out 5-6 pounds. They're pretty decent sized. And we are cheating. Go ahead and just quick fast this, hook the propane up, light it. We'll get the water boiling real quick, get it hot enough, and just a couple good sharp knives and an area to process your chickens on. And then we'll put them in a cooler, take them up to the house and put them in the freezer. But yeah, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Keep it simple. In my opinion, it's just as difficult to dip them and pluck them as it is to skin them. And if you skin them, you lose all the, you know, wonderful fats and the flavor and just everything you get whenever you leave the skin on it. So, hey, just pony up, snatch the feathers off. It's not that hard. You can then use the feathers, put them in your garden to break down, you know, feather meal. It's great for your garden. So, you know, circle of life. But glad you're hanging out with me today. I'll show you what I can of this. Not a super lengthy video, but hopefully it'll be informative and entertaining. So y'all hang tight. We're gonna go get a bird. Yeah, note to self, leave enough room in your container. You can always add more water. You don't want to dunk your chicken in there and have hot water dump out everywhere. So yeah. All right, we've given the bird time to drain. We're just going to dip him. The water doesn't have to actually be boiling per se. It does need to be scalding hot. You don't want to put your hands in there. That's how hot it needs to be. Sometimes it helps to have you something to go ahead and push that bird under the water, because the feathers are going to want to make them float. Don't have to hold it under there that long. The hotter it is, the less time you need to hold it under there, because you're not wanting to cook the bird. And that super hot water will cook the bird. But when you've done it long enough, you'll see the skin got just barely cooked. And that's what you want to see. We'll take them over here to the table and we'll pluck this bird out. And note to self, the bird is hot at this point. If you go to grabbing feathers, so you may want to have some cold water like I do, dip them down in there, get it to cool off just real quick before you go to grabbing it. And like previously stated, the feathers are good fertilizer, so they're going to be going off in a bucket along with everything else that I don't want to save. I'll be saving the heart, the gizzard, lungs perhaps, some of that stuff just for the dogs and the cats. But other than that, we will be saving the feet. If you do not save the feet of your birds, start doing it. This is a great source of collagen. It's not difficult to do once you know how to do it. May do a separate video on that just to show you guys how to do that, because there is a process to it, but it's not difficult. You get a great amount of collagen. It makes a wonderful bone broth, and instead of discarding them, yeah, save those nutrients, save that flavor. So we'll get to plucking. All right, and you want to pull the feathers. You see how easily they're coming off? Okay, you want to pull the feathers down. You don't want to take them and start ripping up, or you can, but do it gently. Preferably want to pull down, because you don't want to start ripping the skin open. If you do rip the skin open, that's a good indication. You don't have to dip the bird quite as long. If you're doing multiples, you got one where the skin's ripping real easily, it means you cook the skin too much. You don't have to hold it under there in the hot water quite as long. All right, guys, well, this is where real meat comes from. No hormones, no steroids, just good homegrown chicken. Just remember, what you're putting into growing your meat out is eventually going to go into you. So yeah, even though we've had these birds pinned up, make sure we're tossing them greens and kitchen scraps and so forth. A lot of good stuff. So the meat they're building on their bodies is going to be good for us. And I tell you what, that's good sized thighs and drumsticks on a bird, just growing them out at the farm. These are not meat birds per se. Like I said, we don't grow these out specifically for meat. These are extra roosters when we're hatching birds out. But that's a good reason why it's good to go ahead and maybe get a dual purpose bird. One that is a good egg producer, but likewise also grows to a good enough size and bulks up to where you can get meat from it as well. Because you're gonna have excess birds. Unless you just have some hens, no rooster, and you're not planning on hatching any out, you're going to have extra birds. All right, and there we go. That is one plucked bird. Took me maybe a total, I don't know, less than 10 minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Not that difficult if you dip them in hot water. You can dry pluck them. It's going to be a little more difficult. It's going to take a little bit longer, but you can dry pluck them, especially if it's a young bird like these are. And that's really when you want to harvest them out, if you can. It makes the plucking a lot easier. They have less pin feathers and so forth. But yeah, so got a few more birds to pluck out, and then I will move along and we'll start going ahead and actually gutting the bird out and processing it from there. So here we go, a little more plucking. All right, went ahead and got the one bird plucked. Got one of the Rhode Island Reds up here, about to pluck him. We're actually processing out 2 Rhode Island Reds and 2 black copper Morans today. Some good looking fat young birds. So, but I did want to mention real quick, in the process of doing this, you're probably going to get blood splattered on you. Okay, if you don't already know this, just real quick, all the processing, animal butchering, everything, field dressing deer, so forth, figured out a long time ago, hydrogen peroxide eats up blood. So, little squirt bottle, hydrogen peroxide, any blood spots you happen to get on your clothing while doing this, just squirt it. Let it sit for a minute. If it's super heavy, you might have to do that twice. But yeah, if you didn't already know, now you know. Get some hydrogen peroxide. It'll get the blood spots out like it never even happened. All right, get back to plucking this bird. All right, got us a couple birds plucked. We'll go ahead and set one out of the way. All right, you got a crawl right here. That's where they store their food. I go ahead and I just cut that. Oh, look at all that fat. I just go ahead and cut the skin around that right off. And we're going to have a little section here that it's going to have the esophagus and so forth right there. So we're going to want to cut that free. And then here at the vent, because it might be difficult to show you while I'm cutting, I'm just going to cut around the vent. You got 2 pelvic bones right here. I'm going to open this section up and cut around that vent. That way I can reach in there and get everything out. Also, I'm going to just go ahead and cut that little gland off. Once you have it freed up, it's literally just reach your hands in there and get it. Okay, there's your gizzard, liver, and I'm going to cut the gizzard off. I'll let the dogs or the cats get that. Scrap the rest. Now they do make a little tool. There's your heart. Another part of the liver. They do make a tool that you can get that'll reach up in here and grab the lungs out. These are the rooster's testes. And while having that tool would probably make it easier, you don't necessarily have to have it. You reach in there, run your fingers right up against the back of the ribs, and that's where the lungs are at. And unfortunately I can't show you, can't get the camera up in here, but you'll feel them. You'll just run your fingers down along the ribs and the lungs should just more or less come right out. All right, gonna go back to the crawl. If you got it cut free, it should come free pretty easily. I'm not sure if I have it cut free so well. All right, and you should have a clean bird from one end. And clean is a relative word, but you should have a clean bird from one end all the way to the other with no crawl. And we'll go ahead and wash this bird off. And there's one. Homegrown organic meat. That's how you do it on the farm, guys. All right, y'all, glad you hung out with me today. I hope you got something out of this video. I don't know how much of the actual gutting process and everything that I might have to clip out just for to keep it where it's watchable. You know, not everything has to be gory to get the idea of what you're doing. So but I'm going to put enough in here to where hopefully you get something out of it. You see that it's not as intimidating as you may think to process out a few birds of your own with minimal equipment. If you did get something out of this video and you liked what you saw, be sure to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and what else? I don't know, I think that may be it. Till the next time, guys, y'all take care. God bless. We will see you on the next one.